Please welcome Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone is one of the most daring and uncompromising filmmakers of modern cinema. A three-time Academy Award winner, Stone has carved his reputation by writing and directing stories that confront power, corruption, and the chaos of human ambition. From his searing Vietnam War dramas like Platoon and Born on the 4th of July, to financial thrillers like Wall Street, political epics such as JFK, and even the explosive screenplay for Scarface, Stone's films are unapologetically provocative. They tackle subjects many directors avoid: war crimes, greed, assassination, and the ugly side of the American dream. But for all his bold storytelling, Stone's films would not be what they are without the actors who embody his vision. His scripts demand intensity, and his direction pushes performers into the rawest corners of emotion. The actors who work with him often deliver the performances of their careers, gritty, unpolished, and unforgettable. In this countdown, we'll look at 5 actors who stand out as Oliver Stone's most powerful collaborators. Each one brought not just talent, but also a fearless commitment to roles that exposed harsh truths about society. From Tom Cruise's transformation into a wounded veteran, to Michael Douglas redefining greed in corporate America, to Al Pacino's fiery gangster who left a permanent mark on pop culture, these performances are more than just acting. They are history written on film. So let's dive into the 5 actors Oliver Stone has leaned on to bring his vision to life. Each performance comes with a serious scene, a defining quote, and a reason why Stone considers them among the greatest contributors to his body of work. Number 5. Tom Cruise, born on the 4th of July, 1989.
What went wrong to our love? A love that was so strong.
When most people think of Tom Cruise, they picture the charismatic action hero of Top Gun or the daring secret agent of Mission Impossible. But under Oliver Stone's direction, Cruise took one of the biggest risks of his career, and it paid off with an Academy Award nomination. In Born on the 4th of July, Cruise shed his Hollywood heartthrob image to inhabit the real-life story of Ron Kovic, a Vietnam veteran whose patriotism turned to disillusionment after being paralyzed in combat. Stone, himself a Vietnam veteran, knew that the film would only work if his lead actor fully committed to the role. Cruise did just that. He trained with paraplegic veterans to learn how to maneuver in a wheelchair, and he spent months studying Kovic's voice, mannerisms, and life story. More importantly, he allowed himself to be vulnerable on screen in a way audiences had never seen before. One of the film's most searing moments comes during a televised anti-war protest, when Kovic erupts in frustration. "I'm here tonight to say that this war is wrong, that this society lied to me. People say that if you don't love America, then get the hell out. Well, I love America, but when it comes to the government, it stops right there." It's a raw, impassioned plea.
Corrupt, thieves, they are rapists and robbers, and we're here to say that we don't have to take it anymore.
One that echoes the voices of thousands of disillusioned veterans who felt betrayed by their country. Cruise delivers the line with an urgency that makes it feel less like acting and more like a man bearing his soul in real time. Stone has often said that directing this performance was one of his proudest achievements. He admired Cruise for throwing himself so completely into a role that could have damaged his superstar image. Instead, it expanded his range and forever changed how audiences saw him. What makes the performance so effective is the journey it takes. At the beginning of the film, Cruise embodies the all-American boy, eager, wide-eyed, and burning with patriotic fervor. By the end, he's a broken man who has found his voice as an activist. That transformation feels believable only because Cruise digs deep into both extremes, the youthful idealism and the bitter disillusionment. Critics were quick to recognize how groundbreaking the role was. Roger Ebert praised Cruise for capturing the agony and the passion of Kovic's story. The Academy nominated him for Best Actor, and though he didn't win, the performance is still widely regarded as one of the finest of his career. For Oliver Stone, Born on the 4th of July wasn't just a movie, it was personal. He had lived through the same war, seen the same betrayals, and carried his own scars. In Cruise, he found an actor brave enough to channel that pain and anger onto the screen. The collaboration between director and actor resulted in a film that remains one of the most powerful anti-war statements in American cinema. In the years since, Tom Cruise has continued to prove his range, but many still point to Born on the 4th of July as the role that proved he was more than just a movie star. He was a serious actor. And that leap wouldn't have happened without Oliver Stone pushing him to take the risk. Number 4, Kevin Costner, JFK 1991.
Someone may find out the damn truth. We better. Or we might just as well.
When Oliver Stone set out to make JFK, he knew it would be one of the most controversial films of his career. Tackling the assassination of President John F. Kennedy meant stepping into the middle of America's deepest political wounds. For the film to work, he needed an actor capable of carrying not only the complex conspiracy theories, but also the weight of moral conviction. That actor was Kevin Costner. At the time, Costner was at the height of his career. He had just starred in Dances with Wolves, which won the Oscar for Best Picture and Best Director. Stone saw in him the perfect blend of credibility and integrity to embody Jim Garrison, the New Orleans district attorney who stood nearly alone in questioning the official story of Kennedy's death. In JFK, Costner delivers one of the most powerful courtroom speeches in movie history. In the climactic trial scene, Garrison turns to the jury and declares, "It has become a dangerous country when you can't tell the truth. I say let justice be done, though the heavens fall."
Nothing as long as you live will ever be more important.
The words, taken directly from historical sources, resonate because of the way Costner delivers them. Calm, steady, but burning with quiet rage. He doesn't play Garrison as a wild-eyed conspiracy theorist, but as a man who refuses to let fear or political pressure silence him. That distinction is what made audiences lean in rather than roll their eyes. Stone has often praised Costner for grounding the film in humanity. Without him, the labyrinth of plot lines and theories might have collapsed under its own weight. Costner becomes the viewer's guide, pulling us through the complexity and reminding us of what's at stake: truth, justice, and the soul of a nation. Critics at the time were divided on the film's politics, but nearly all agreed that Costner's performance gave JFK its center of gravity. Roger Ebert called him the rock upon which the film rests, and audiences responded the same way. The movie grossed over $200 million worldwide, an extraordinary number for such a politically explosive subject. Behind the scenes, Stone and Costner worked closely to ensure that Garrison's voice felt authentic. Costner reportedly studied hours of Garrison's real-life interviews and speeches, trying to capture his cadence without slipping into imitation. Stone admired that discipline, saying Costner had the rare ability to convey moral authority without slipping into melodrama. The legacy of JFK remains complicated. It inspired both fascination and fierce debate, but there's no denying that Costner's performance is one of its strongest elements. Stone himself has said that the role cemented Costner as more than just a Hollywood leading man. He became, in Stone's words, the conscience of the film. What's remarkable is how understated the performance is. There are no grand theatrics, no shouting matches or breakdowns. Instead, Costner channels Garrison's stubborn conviction. He's the calm voice in a storm of doubt and paranoia. And in a Stone film, where chaos and conflict usually reign, that kind of quiet strength becomes revolutionary. Decades later, audiences still quote the courtroom speech, and Stone continues to defend the film as one of his boldest statements. For both director and actor, JFK remains a career-defining collaboration, a film where performance and purpose fused into something unforgettable. Number 3, Charlie Sheen, Platoon, 1986. When Oliver Stone set out to make Platoon, he wasn't just making another war film. He was exorcising demons. Stone himself had served as an infantryman in Vietnam, and he wanted to bring the raw, unflinching truth of that war to the screen. To do that, he needed a central character who could carry both innocence and disillusionment, someone who could embody the young American soldier's journey from idealism to despair. He found that in Charlie Sheen. At the time, Sheen was only in his early 20s, still trying to carve his place in Hollywood. He wasn't yet the tabloid headline maker he would later become. Stone saw in him a kind of vulnerability that fit perfectly with the character of Chris Taylor, a college dropout who volunteers for combat in Vietnam. In many ways, Taylor was Stone's alter ego, and Sheen had to shoulder the responsibility of not just playing a role, but channeling the director's own past. One of the film's most haunting moments comes through Taylor's narration in a letter home. Somebody once wrote, "Hell is the impossibility of reason. That's what this place feels like. Hell." I think now, looking back, we did not fight the enemy, we fought ourselves, and the enemy was in us. Those lines, spoken with a weary, almost broken cadence, capture the essence of Platoon. Sheen doesn't deliver them with heroic resolve or dramatic flourish. He delivers them as a young man crushed under the weight of something he can't fully understand. It's that quiet authenticity that Stone has said made Sheen so vital to the film. Behind the scenes, Stone put Sheen and the rest of the cast through a grueling 2-week boot camp in the Philippine jungle before filming began. The idea was to break down their Hollywood egos and force them to bond as soldiers. Sheen later recalled the experience as one of the toughest of his life, but it left him raw and prepared. When cameras rolled, the exhaustion and fear on his face weren't just acting, they were real. Sheen's performance works because he never tries to play Chris Taylor as a war hero. Instead, he embodies the confusion, the moral conflict, and the desperation of a young man caught between two father figures, Sergeant Elias, Willem Dafoe, and Sergeant Barnes, Tom Berenger. Those relationships, particularly the tragic bond with Elias, drive Taylor toward his breaking point. Sheen becomes the moral witness to the destruction unfolding around him. Stone has said that Sheen's vulnerability reminded him of his own younger self. Casting him wasn't just a decision, it was personal. He trusted Sheen to carry his story with honesty, and Sheen delivered. Critics praised his understated performance, noting that while Dafoe and Berenger gave the showier turns, it was Sheen's quiet center that made the film coherent and emotionally devastating. Platoon went on to win the Academy Award for Best Picture and Best Director, cementing Stone's reputation as one of America's boldest filmmakers. For Sheen, it became the defining dramatic role of his career, a reminder that before the controversies and comedies, he had shown extraordinary promise as a serious actor. Even decades later, that letter home and its haunting reflection on hell stand as one of the most powerful anti-war statements in cinema. Through Charlie Sheen, Oliver Stone gave voice to a generation of soldiers and to his own scarred memories of Vietnam. Number 2, Michael Douglas, Wall Street, 1987.
Lost or made, it's simply transferred from one perception to another, like magic.
If Oliver Stone's Platoon was a film born from his personal scars, Wall Street was born from his rage at the greed of the 1980s. America was deep in the era of deregulation, insider trading scandals, and the yuppie lifestyle. Stone wanted to make a film that captured both the seduction and the corruption of wealth, and for that, he needed an actor who could embody ruthless charm. He found the perfect match in Michael Douglas. At the time, Douglas was best known for producing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and starring in thrillers like Fatal Attraction. He wasn't the obvious choice to play a financial shark, but Stone sensed he could deliver the balance of charisma and menace required for Gordon Gekko. The role would become not just Douglas's career-defining performance, but also one of the most iconic characters in cinema history. Gekko's philosophy is laid bare in the now legendary "Greed is good" speech delivered to shareholders. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right, greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Douglas doesn't just say those words, he owns them. He projects total confidence, the kind of unshakable authority that convinces audiences that Gekko could bend the financial world to his will. Stone's script was razor sharp, but it was Douglas who injected it with venomous conviction.
We make the rules, pal. The news, war, peace, famine, upheaval, the price of a paperclip.
Behind the scenes, Douglas was initially nervous. He worried the financial jargon might bury the character in technicalities. But Stone encouraged him to lean into the psychology of Gecko, the swagger, the intimidation, the sense of absolute control. On set, Douglas adopted an alpha presence, dressing immaculately and perfecting the clipped, dismissive delivery that made every line sting. Stone later said that Douglas elevated the film beyond his expectations. Instead of simply being a villain, Gecko became a cultural archetype. He was a monster, but he was magnetic, and audiences couldn't look away. The irony, of course, was that while Stone meant the character as a critique of Wall Street excess, many young financiers idolized him. In interviews, Douglas admitted he was stunned by how many stockbrokers would later tell him they got into finance because of Gordon Gekko. For Stone, that contradiction was the whole point. He wanted viewers to feel the seduction of greed while also seeing its destructive consequences. Douglas helped him achieve that balance by making Gekko so irresistibly watchable. The performance won Douglas the Academy Award for Best Actor, a recognition not just of his talent but also of how perfectly he aligned with Stone's vision. The legacy of Wall Street is inseparable from Douglas's portrayal. Even decades later, the "greed is good" speech is quoted in political debates, business schools, and pop culture parodies. Stone himself has said that Douglas created one of cinema's great villains. Not a gangster or a warlord, but a man in a suit who destroys lives with a pen. Douglas's Gordon Gekko is the embodiment of everything Stone wanted to critique about capitalism's dark side. Yet, thanks to the actor's mastery, he became a symbol larger than the film itself. For Oliver Stone, it was proof of what the right actor could do. Transform sharp writing into cultural mythology. Number 1, Al Pacino, Scarface 1983.
You gonna shoot me in front of everybody? Huh?
Before Oliver Stone became famous as a director, he was already making waves as a screenwriter. In the early 1980s, he was battling his own demons: addiction, disillusionment with politics, and the chaos of American culture. Out of that storm came his script for Scarface, a reimagining of the 1932 gangster film. While Stone didn't direct it, Brian De Palma did, his fingerprints are all over it. And at the heart of that fiery script was one man, Al Pacino. Pacino had already made history with the Godfather films and Dog Day Afternoon. But in Scarface, he stepped into a role unlike any he had played before. Tony Montana, a Cuban refugee who claws his way to the top of Miami's drug underworld. Pacino threw himself into the part, even traveling to Miami's Cuban neighborhoods to study accents and mannerisms. Stone gave him the words, but Pacino gave them flesh and blood. One of the most defining moments in the film comes when Tony confronts Bolivian drug lord Alejandro Sosa. Standing his ground, Tony spits out a line that has become immortal in gangster cinema. "All I have in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one."
All I have in this world is my balls and my word, and I don't break them for no one. Do you understand?
It's a line that distills Stone's writing, sharp, raw, and unapologetic. But it's Pacino's delivery that made it legendary. He speaks with a mix of pride, arrogance, and deadly resolve, embodying the code by which Tony lives and dies. Stone has often said that Pacino's ferocity made the film unforgettable. His performance was so commanding that even critics who initially trashed the film for its excess couldn't deny Pacino's power. Over time, Scarface transformed from a polarizing release into a cultural phenomenon, quoted in rap lyrics, posters, and college dorm rooms across the world. Behind the scenes, Pacino's dedication impressed everyone. He injured his hand badly during one stunt, but refused to stop filming until he was forced into surgery. That same intensity bled into every scene, and Stone later credited Pacino's obsession with detail for elevating the script. Ironically, Pacino's Tony Montana wasn't just a gangster. He was a metaphor. Stone's commentary on the American dream gone rotten. Montana is ambitious, fearless, and relentless, but his greed consumes him. By the time he shouts, "Say hello to my little friend," in the film's blood-soaked climax, he's both terrifying and tragic.
Say hello to my little friend!
For Oliver Stone, Pacino represented the ultimate collaborator, an actor who could take his most provocative writing and burn it into the audience's memory. Decades later, Stone still cites Pacino's Scarface as one of the greatest performances ever given in one of his scripts. And even though he wasn't the director, he acknowledges that Pacino's interpretation of Tony Montana turned Scarface into a cornerstone of modern cinema. Pacino's work in Scarface also influenced a generation of actors and filmmakers. Without Tony Montana, it's hard to imagine the rise of anti-hero icons that followed. The performance was operatic, dangerous, and magnetic, the perfect storm of actor, script, and director. For Stone, placing Al Pacino at the top of his list is a no-brainer. No one else has ever embodied his words with such fire. Scarface is more than a gangster movie. It's a cultural mirror, and Pacino's Tony Montana is the reflection we can't look away from. Oliver Stone has never been afraid of controversy. His films are bold, loud, and uncompromising, mirroring the man himself. But what makes his work endure isn't just the politics or the provocations. It's the actors who bring his vision to life. From Tom Cruise's raw transformation in Born on the 4th of July to Kevin Costner's measured intensity in JFK, from Charlie Sheen's haunted vulnerability in Platoon to Michael Douglas's ruthless brilliance in Wall Street, Stone has always surrounded himself with performers willing to go all in. And at the very top stands Al Pacino's unforgettable turn in Scarface. Pacino didn't just play Tony Montana, he became a cultural force, breathing fire into Stone's words and leaving behind a performance that continues to inspire and shock audiences decades later. What ties these actors together is their willingness to dig into Stone's themes: war, greed, corruption, and morality, and make them unforgettable. They didn't just act, they lived inside his stories. That's why Oliver Stone's legacy is more than the films he directed or wrote. It's the collaborations, those electric moments between writer, director, and performer, that turned cinema into something raw, dangerous, and unshakably real.